Greetings from Healthy Heart. I needed to take this opportunity to talk about Aunt Hazel. Aunt Hazel's homegoing was, oh my God, just simply beautiful, God ordained. And if you missed it, man, you missed it. Aunt Hazel was the last oldest family member that has gone on to see the master. So my son recently asked me before Aunt Hazel passed, child, well, who is and he was asking me all kind of questions about the family, and I told him the little bit I knew, but it reminded me of Joel 1 and 3, how we're to tell our children and they are to tell their children, because memories are so important. Memories, they strengthen our sense of identity. But anywho, let me give this quick disclaimer, honey. I took pictures from people's Facebook pages, Mama's photo album. I took them from everywhere. But before we start these memories, I needed to show Grandma and Granddaddy, but Grandma's siblings. Grandma was a Higgins. So there is Uncle Lewis, the oldest, and Uncle George. So the next voice that you shall hear is the oldest remaining Calloway of our generation. Now, kids, ask your people if you don't know who these people are. All right, sis.
Greetings, everybody. I tell you, I am going to start or just do perhaps right now one household and explain who's in it and talk a little bit about all of us. And this is the household of Reverend Calloway, who is the pastor or was the pastor of Calloway Baptist Church. So he was the oldest and the patriarch in that house and of the Calloway family. Now, in the photo of Reverend Calloway, my memories of living in that house, and I lived in that house. So is starting with him. He studied all the time, but he could get very angry with us if we did something he didn't think was right. And his favorite phrase was, "You got no God in you." That's what he would get mad and say anytime we didn't do something that he liked. And I remember one time he was sitting on the front porch and I was sitting out there with him, and he told me to go yonder and find his house shoes. And I ran in the house crying because he got mad at me. And I went to sister and she asked me why I was crying. And I said, "I don't know where yonder is. And daddy wants me to go get his shoes." And he got mad at me because I didn't know. Now, next to Reverend Calloway is his wife, my grandmother. And to be truthful, she was the matriarch of the house for real and of the whole Calloway family. And my grandmother was working all day in the house, just work, work, work. And people would come by and she would make a pie or a cake so they could have pie or cake and coffee. And her favorite thing to do was to talk to all of her granddaughters. And then she would fuss at Reverend Calloway, my grandfather. And next Oh, they were in front. And then behind them was their three children. Now, let me explain something really quick. And that is, I keep saying because I am not going to be in that particular picture, though I was living in the house. And I'm not going to tell my story because that would take too long. But behind them are their three children. On the right hand side will be my Uncle H.E., Uncle Horace. And he was the middle one. And then in between him and Charles Calloway, who is my dad, and I call him Shaw, is my Aunt Alice. Now, I was raised by Aunt Alice, who I call sister. So when I say sister, I'm not talking about my sister. And I was raised by her and my grandmother. And my dad, he worked as a police officer in Shepherd Square, I believe it was, and for a while. And though I was not living with him, he lived across the street from where I was living for a while. And he was crazy about his daughters. There's two of us, and he was crazy about his daughters. And he would come by to see Mama, who is my grandmother, remember, 3 or 4 times a week. And I was always so happy to see him. I was jumping up and down.